All right, guys, in this I'm going to talk about quotations and citations. This is a really simple thing that needs to happen in every single body paragraph because we are not doctors. And until we have a doctorate degree in something, we need other people and other resources to help defend ourselves. So this is basically an MLA format, but I got to be real, MLA format changes all the time, so this might be outdated. I don't know. Here's my number one thing is in every body paragraph, there needs to be a quotation present. You have to use outside evidence because what I just said, we're not doctors. We don't have the expertise to convince people solely on our voice. And in addition to that, everyone is moved by a different persuasive appeal. So if you're trying to impact a large audience, you need to know how to use quotations in a credible way and in a way that also varies. This is why it's important to have forms of evidence that will target different types of people. So I'm specifically going to focus on literary analysis and persuasion. And whenever doing any kind of persuasive writing, you always want to go back to the persuasive appeals: ethos, pathos, and logos. You can pause this and read through this if you want to, but as a quick reminder, ethos is about the speaker's credibility, pathos is about emotion, and logos is about a sense of logic or reason. So anything you choose to use in your body paragraph should use one or many of these persuasive appeals because you want to appeal to different people in your audience. So here are some different forms of evidence. And it's important that we know this because we don't want to just pull quotations to pull quotations. That could stunt our ability to write. So if you're doing a literary analysis essay, find a quotation that has figurative language, imagery, diction, details about the character, setting, plot, mood, author's purpose, point of view, or conflict, or uses some kind of interesting syntax. If you don't know what syntax and diction are, you can look at my analysis video, I believe, and it'll go into detail about that. As for persuasion, you can use things like statistics, local and national news, historical facts, scientific facts, and general research. So if you're running into issues where you're like, oh, I don't know what quotation to use, look at the slide and remind yourself where you can go. But when you're choosing your evidence, here's some tips. For a literary analysis essay, use evidence that requires explanation, perhaps something that has multiple meanings, and something that reveals or implies something bigger. And what I mean by something bigger is it's not just about Romeo and Juliet. It implies something about life and about the human experience. Don't use evidence that summarizes a story, is extremely direct, like his name was Romeo, or is way too long or way too short. Okay? In a persuasive essay, you want to use evidence that allows for explanation, so it allows you to expand on it. It defends your stance. And when I say that, not just the quotation defends your stance, but the article that you're using as a whole defends your stance. You don't want to find that you're accidentally misinterpreting the author's intent. Also, use evidence that is diverse, so different forms of evidence. You really want to appeal to the ethos, pathos, and the logos, not just one of those things. If you give me an essay that has all statistics, I'm not going to want to listen to it. But if you give a variety of things like statistics and scientific evidence and local and national news, you're broadening your audience, and then as such, you're broadening your argument. Don't use evidence that's outdated, from an unreliable source, or unrelated to your argument. A lot of people do this. We see this all the time. So for a literary analysis essay, a quality quotation would be something like, the left picture. Did my heart love till now, forswear its sight, for I never saw true beauty till this night. So in this situation, Romeo is hyperbolizing. He's being over dramatic, and we can analyze that hyperbole, right? In addition to that, this is revealing a lot about Romeo's character. What does it mean for him to believe that he never saw true beauty till this night when he was just in love with Rosalind? There's a lot that we can unpack here. A low quality quotation would be something like, in fair Verona. Yes, you could analyze the use of the word fair, you can analyze that diction, but unless you're really going into detail about the setting of the play, I don't think that this is a quality quotation you should be using. As for a persuasive essay, so I'm focusing on the idea of love, and I found an article by Psychology Today. These are both from that article. The left side, in love, comes at a price of periodically being very unhappy when harmony is temporarily lost or obstacles are encountered. In this, the author of Psychology Today, who happens to be a doctor, is making a claim. And also, you can expand on what they might mean by harmony or losing that harmony. Now, the same doctor on the right side says parents usually become concerned when their teenager falls in love in high school. This is very direct, very to the point, and you really don't have to expand much on this. That's why I would call it a low quality quotation. Next, you need to make sure you format your quotation. So here are 3 different ways you can format your quotation. You can pause this and look at it. So many people forget to introduce their quotation. They just let a quote float there. They don't have something before the quotation and they don't have something after the quotation. You should always do that. In some rare situations, you may start with a quote, but you would always have something after it. So these are the 3 forms that I would encourage you to use when formatting your quotation. And here's some examples. As a tip, an ellipses or 3 dots represents the removal of words, and brackets with a word in it represents the addition of words. So you can pause this and look this over. Take note of the grammar. See if you can see any errors. I already see one, and that's this comma. Actually, in this situation, you don't need a comma, but in this situation, you do. So looking at the way that I use these grammar tools and ellipses, look at how you can format them. If you're just randomly putting a quotation in there, you're not giving it the credibility that it needs. And then all of the work that you put into quoting it kind of goes to waste. Hope this was helpful.